In this video, I'll be talking about Skylanders that I think are underrated. This is not going to be a top 10 list or anything. I'm just going to pick 2 Skylanders from each game and say why I think that they should be loved more and why I think that they're underrated. Now, just because a Skylander is on this list doesn't necessarily mean they're like a super good top 10 Skylander, but I do think they deserve more recognition. So let's get into the video for today. I'm going to be talking about underrated Skylanders. So from SSA, the first Skylander that I think is underrated is Boomer. I never hear anyone talk about Boomer, and whenever I see people's list of Skylanders from SSA, he's always near the bottom. But as you guys know, he's my second favorite Skylander overall, and my favorite Skylander from Spyro's Adventure. His lobbing dynamite attacks do very good damage, and he can put bombs on the ground which explode in enemies' faces. And his slam attack, well, kinda weird attack for a tech Skylander, and does work and is very usable and does good damage. He's also a troll, which I think is kind of cool since trolls are usually the enemies in Skylanders, and Boomer, in my opinion, is definitely underrated. Another one from SSA that I believe to be underrated is Voodoo. He is one of the Forgotten 8, much like Boomer, and that could be a part why he's underrated, and despite both of them getting Eon's Elite, I still think they're both underrated. Voodoo is great, especially in SSA. He is a beast in SSA. All of his attacks do good damage, and his combos, man, those are some combos. Honestly, I'm quite sad that Voodoo and Boomer never got reposes. I mean, they did get Eon's Elite, kind of cool, I guess, but I think out of all the Forgotten 8, I think those two deserve to be brought back in Giants out of all of them, really. Next is Giants. It was kind of hard picking 2 from this game since I think that most of the Skylanders in this game are fondly remembered, and the ones that are not have good reasons. Like, I don't think anyone likes Sprocket. Eventually I was able to pick out 2 though, 1 Giant and 1 Core. The Giant I picked that I believe is underrated is Thumpback. I think that he is the least talked about Giant, and I have no idea why. I love Thumpback, and he's probably my second favorite Giant. Whenever people rank the Giants, Thumpback is always low on the list, and I don't think that's deserved at all. His attacks are so good and unique, and they're all practical. I can use them all. I love that he swings a giant anchor, and much like Voodoo, his combos are amazing. So I have no idea why no one talks about him, and I think he deserves way more love. And the core I picked is Jetvac. I don't have nearly as much to say about Jetvac. I see a lot of people hating on him, but I don't think he deserves all that hate. Now, I don't think Jetvac, like I said, is an amazing top 10 Skylander, but I definitely think he's good and usable. His first attack is pretty decent, and overall I think he's just a well-rounded Skylander that deserves to get recognized more. On to Swap Force. First up is Zulu. Whenever he gets talked about, it always seems negative, and I don't understand that at all. His moveset is super cool. He's like a beast tamer or something, and he just shoots animals out of like his scepter. So cool. And he even got a legendary, and he still never gets talked about. Zulu should really get more love in my opinion. And next is Gorilla Drilla. Both Skylanders from Swap Force are the life element, I just realized. Kind of neat, I guess. Just out of the gate, Gorilla Drilla is a monkey, okay? So he has that going for him. This is another Skylander, kind of like Jetvac, where I don't necessarily think he's one of the best ones, but I do think he deserves to get more recognition. I see a lot of people have Gorilla Drill low on the list, but I think he should definitely at least be middle of the tier in Swappers. Like, I think he's like mid-tier or a bit above it. His attacks are fun. He has the basic punch attacks and stuff like that, but he can also release monkeys from the sky. I think that's so awesome. He can literally release the monkeys. That's so cool. Okay, on to Trap Team now. You could really pick any core from this game and call them underrated, but my first pick is Torch. Out of all the cores, I think Torch is one of the ones I hear about the least. I think that her flamethrower attack is actually amazing and does good damage, and I think her horseshoe attack, where she just throws horseshoes, is so random, but I love it. Her hair whip is also unique, and I'm so glad they used her fire hair for an attack, and both of the paths I think are usable, and Torch is just severely underrated in my opinion. One of the most underrated Skylanders, I think. And my other pick is Nightmare. Now, I know out of this entire list, Nightmare is probably the most talked about because she is a trap master, but whenever I hear people talk about her, it's usually negative, but I actually think she's pretty great. Her weapon is cool and does good damage, like really good damage. Her charge attack, while I admit is not practical, but it's fun. And her battle horn is such a unique attack, and I think it is actually pretty cool and usable. Also, I love her design, half human, half horse. Super underrated Skylander in my opinion. Superchargers was probably the hardest to pick since it is my least favorite roster and the smallest roster as well, but I was able to get 2 picks. First one being Super Shot Stealth Elf. I actually think that Super Shot Stealth Elf is on par with her original form, and I can't say that about most of the other brought back Skylanders. I think the way they brought her back is really creative. They literally just gave her a minigun. That's cool. And I do think she should be talked about more. And my second pick I had from the very beginning Astro Blast. Despite being the 3rd ever light element Skylander, he is super underrated. He even got a legendary, and no one talks about him. His laser blasts are good, and once you upgrade them where they can ricochet off walls, they just delete enemies so fast. He can kick enemies just literally kick them. Pretty fun. And one of his attacks, he literally throws a rock into the air and turns it into a disco ball. That is one of the most creative attacks I've ever seen, and he never gets talked about, ever. His soul gem is so funny. You can spawn space sheep. Like, how cool is that? I think he deserves to be talked about way more. Imaginators, even the best roster has underrated Skylanders, and one of those is Chompy Mage. I think that people take his change in battle class way too hard. Like, yeah, it's weird that he's a bazooker, but a lot of people don't look past that. But once you do, he's an awesome Skylander. It doesn't help that most people also don't have him, but the ones that do have him usually talk pretty negatively about him, and I don't think he deserves that at all. Next is Aurora, and yeah, Aurora gets a lot of hate, I think, but I don't think most of it is deserved. She's actually pretty good in my opinion. Her first attack you can use very easily, just, her sword attack. You can probably speedrun with her, she's pretty fast, and her attacks do good damage. You can throw your swords on the ground, pretty cool. And her soul gem is really just making her more powerful by increasing her armor and attack damage. And I think she deserves way more recognition. She's kind of like Rella Drilla, where I don't think she's necessarily a top tier Skylander, but I think that she does get way too much hate, and I think she's pretty underrated. Well, that's what I think are some of the most underrated Skylanders in my opinion. Tell me what Skylanders you think are personally underrated in the comments below. But anyway guys, hope you guys have enjoyed this video about underrated Skylanders, and I'll probably make a video about overrated Skylanders in a week or two. So, hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and thank you guys for watching.